Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new review from Class 47 Peter, which this is the first review of 2017. Hope you all had a happy new year and a great Christmas. I certainly did. And to kick off the reviews, we're going to be looking at a Hornby model, as you can clearly see. And there's no prizes for guessing what this model is. This is the brand new Hornby Peckett in the Huntley and Palmer's livery, which is the one I wanted. And in my opinion, I think it's the best livery out of the lot, but that's just my own little opinion. Now, the Pecketts, as well, if anyone knows about this model, then you will know that these have virtually all been sold out before they even got released into the shops. The sooner they were released, they were sold out. So getting one of these has not been easy. This particular model came from eBay as an auction. Of course, the model was brand new. It was up for sale from someone who bought two of these models, but the other wasn't needed, and so it went up as an auction. And so I had a go at it. I paid £87 for this. I put that bid into the auction and I won it, as you can see now. And I was just so pleased to get it. In fact, I ended up doing a little dance on the kitchen floor because I was that excited and thrilled that I'd won it, simply because of the fact that these models were all getting sold out, which meant that, you know, it wasn't easy to get one, and I was kind of worried about not getting one, because everywhere I went to they were sold out, especially this particular livery that I wanted. And so when I came onto this one on eBay, I thought I've got to have a go at this, and just to my luck, I'd won it. And I got this model as a Christmas present, and seeing it on Christmas Day, unwrapping it, it was just awesome. So let's get this done. First of all, we take off the sleeve. It's the usual Hornby packaging, which is the plastic packaging. So we have a photo model on the front, and on the back you have a brief history of the loco. You can pause and read it if you want to. I'm not going to stop you. Now we can take out plastic packaging. Just look at that. That model just looks stunning. So we just take out the plastic ice packaging, as it's known to as everyone. And we are now free to take a look at the instructions inside the model. Normally at this point I'd look at the detail pack first, but this model doesn't come with any, which is a first, I think, from Hornby, because normally most models come with a detail pack. So this is the instructions for the Peckett, the W4 Peckett, I should say rather, because that's the class. And it's the usual stuff we've seen before: lubrication, DCC ready, taking the body off, and coupling removal. All the stuff we've seen before, so nothing new. And now we remove the plastic casing from the packaging. There's just a hair on that, so I've just taken that off. And then we just undo the clip to the box, and then we lift the model out, and we can now look at it in detail. And so we just put that packaging to one side. Now, before I do talk about the detail, we're going to talk about the weight first, as I always do with these models. And considering that this is only a very small locomotive, which is quite small, it is very heavy. There is actually a lot of weight in this model, but that's the important thing, because even small models like this need to be able to pull trains or shunt your stock around the layout. So the weight's important, and Hornby realised that considering this is a small model, it needs weight in it. So, well done to Hornby for that. The model is also fitted with them couplings, so you can take one of these couplings out of both of them and swap them for your own if you want to, but I don't really tend to replace the couplings, so I leave them in. And you can take the coupling out on the front if you want to, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to leave that coupling in there, because it will be especially useful for shunting. We also have some nice detailing on the buffer beam there. We have a coupling hook, and we have some rivets, and we've even got some white lining there printed on the front of the buffer beam, which makes it stand out, and it really does look nice. We now move on to the buffers of this model, and the buffers are not sprung on this model. They normally are, but as I've said before, I don't really have much care for the sprung buffers anyway, because you're only ever going to touch them when you're handling the model. You're never going to mess about with them when you're running the model. And even I, very, very rarely ever touch the sprung buffers. In fact, I only ever seem to do it when doing reviews, to be honest. But these buffers are made of metal though, which is a good thing, because it's nice to see metal buffers on models rather than plastic ones. We now move on to the smoke box on the locomotive, and as you can see, there are some rivets just above this smoke box door there, and just above the running board there, where the smoke box is, just underneath it, at the ends of the smoke box size, as you can see, there are some rivets there, and that is a great bit of detail to have, of course, because it makes the model more realistic. We also have a nice crisply printed star just above the smoke box door there, and this is a great bit of detail to have because the real Peckett painted in this livery did have that star on the smoke box door. So it's great to see that Hornby have added that on the smoke box door because it does look nice. We also have a separately fitted metal handrail there on the front of the smoke box door, well, on top of it I should say rather, on the front of the saddle tank, and it's painted silver as well and it looks really nice. And then moving on to the smoke box door darts, they are painted silver, and those smoke box door hinges are also painted silver as well, and it actually does make it stand out. And also we have rivets on the smoke box door hinges as well, as you can just about see, and there's even rivets on the smoke box door as well. We now move on to the side rods and the link motion on the Peckett, and it's all superb as you can see. And one thing I particularly love is that the side rods are painted red, which is a nice feature to have. You can also see the motion bracket there just about, and I just can't wait to see the valve gear and the side rods moving on the model. It's always a pleasure to see, just like it is on the real thing. We also have some beautifully crisp lining on the cylinders, both white and black lining, as you can see. Black for the middle of the cylinders, where you got that bit of blue paint, and white for the outside. And you can also see some rivets there on the cylinder heads, and the detail, it's just exquisite. And you can just about see the drain cocks there under the cylinders, which we can't leave out. We also have some sanding gear there, just at the rear drive wheel, which is made of metal, and it's a great bit of detail to have because again it makes it look more realistic. We also have rear cab steps, as you would expect on models like this, because they're there for the crew to climb up and into the cab. And there's even some lining on the footsteps as well, and even they are painted the same colour as the loco, of course. We then move on to the sand boxes, which they're there, and even they have some very crisp lining on them and painted the same colour as the loco. And also just look at all that pipe work there that's separately fitted and painted, it just looks superb. And you can also see a spring there just behind that pipework there, just by the front sandbox, as you can just about see. And I really do love how Hornby have gone to the lengths to put that there, because it's a great bit of detail to have, and if you look at the Peckett in reality, that spring is indeed there. We also have some separately fitted metal handrails on the saddle tanks there on the side, and just like the one on the front of the saddle tank, they are painted silver, and that is a great touch to add because it adds to the detail. We also have a beautiful chimney with some nice little bit of detail sticking out the side there, and this one has the, I do believe this is the copper cap on it, if I remember correctly, and it's a very nice chimney, and I love the copper cap on it. You could add a smoke generator unit in there if you wanted, but I never really tend to bother with that, so I'll just leave it as it is. And you've also got that little filler cap there of some sort just behind the chimney. I believe that might be to do with the water. We've also got Huntley and Palmer's Limited, crisply printed on the side of the saddle tanks, because Huntley and Palmer's was the company that it worked for, and Huntley and Palmer's was in actual fact a biscuit factory, which this locomotive in reality was used to shunt wagons around. We also have a nice gold dome there, and the safety valves, which are separately fitted, and I just love how they are connected to the dome there, which you get the little detail parts that stick out of the dome, and the safety valves are attached to that, and it's a great bit of detail to have. And as we would expect, there is glazing in the cab windows, and the window trims are painted gold, which is a very nice feature indeed. And just look at the lining there on the front of the cab. It's just superb. We also have a separately fitted turned metal whistle there on the cab roof, which is very nice. And on the cab roof we have lots of rivets as well, which again makes the model look more realistic. And it's always a great bit of detail to have, something I always love seeing. Moving on to the cab, we do have some separately fitted metal handrails there, painted silver, as you can just about see. And again, we have beautifully crisp lining on the cab as well. We also have a gold trim there, just in between the top half and the bottom half of the cab. And also you can just about see some rivets on the bottom of the cab. We also have a works plate there, which this locomotive was built in Bristol, as you can see. We've also got the letter D printed above that, which that basically is its power classification. You can also see the rivets as well, just around this side of the cab. Always a great bit of detail to have, as I've said before. Moving on to the cab interior now, which the front of the cab is painted cream and the rear of the cab is painted black. Very nice bit of variety there, and a nice bit of realism as well, because that's how the cabs of the inside of these locomotives in reality were painted. So it's good to see it being replicated on the model. But moving on to the detail inside the cab itself, it's all exquisite. You've got the gauges, the dials, the injectors, the levers, those handles again, it's all there and it's painted and it just looks so superb. And it's one of the important things about the detail, because without the cab interior in it and without the detail inside the cab, the model would look a bit bland. So it makes the model more realistic, and it's always a pleasure to see all that detail inside the cab. It's just stunning. Moving on to the rear cab, you have again glazing in the rear cab windows and gold window trims with rivets on them. You got a separately fitted lamp iron on the back, and you got that nice bit of detail there just under the lamp iron. I'm not sure what it's there for, but there's rivets on it and it looks nice. And again we have some beautifully crisp lining and that gold trim that you saw run in the middle of the cab, and it runs to the back of the cab as well and runs in the middle of that, and it really highlights the detail on it and the livery as well, in my opinion. Again, just like the front buffer beam, there's a coupling hook there, and again them couplings. You've also got rivets on the rear buffer beam and some nice white lining on the buffer beam as well. And just like the front buffer beam, we have metal buffers that are not sprung. But now we come on to the livery application, which is very smooth and very level. There's no errors in the paint, but the livery itself is just beautiful, and I think personally it's one of the most attractive liveries that the Peckett has ever had in reality. And of the three models that Hornby have currently released, and the one that they have announced for the 2017 range in the plain black, I think this livery is the best to go for, and it's the most attractive livery, and it's just simply gorgeous. Not to mention blue is also my favourite colour, so that is why it had to be a blue one of all the Pecketts that were released. And the lining, it really does lift the livery as well, and it's just such a beautiful livery. Well done, Hornby. And then we move on to the other side of the model, which has exactly the same level of detail, so there's nothing really different here to talk about, but might as well show the other side anyway. Moving on from the detail of the model to the running of the model, and this model, it just runs so smoothly, which is what we expect. We don't want any grinding noises or rough or stuttering movement. Nothing like that at all, not even motors burning out. It runs exactly as it should and how we expect it to, but also this model is very quiet as well, because there aren't many models you get that sound as quiet as this, which is something very different, but also a nice little touch there as well. We move on to the loaded test run of the Peckett, which, as you can see, the model is pulling a plank wagon, 3 conflats and 3 of the sand tippers, plus a brake. It's not the longest train I've ever had on the layout, but it just shows you again why the weight's important, because the model had no problem at all whatsoever pulling these wagons around the layout, and it makes up a very nice train as well. So overall, Hornby have got themselves a winner here with this model, and for me, this is one of Hornby's best models that they have produced yet, and I'd be very shocked if Hornby do not win a Model of the Year award that Model Rail do every year for this model, because it's a model that I cannot fault. It's a gorgeous model with stunning detail, a beautiful livery, running performance and so on. It's an absolute perfect model, and like I said, I cannot fault it in any way. If you haven't got one of these models, you need to get your hands on one if you can, because you will not be disappointed, and they are really well worth the money. And let's hope more industrial locos from Hornby, or any of the other manufacturers for that matter, are released in the future, because this model did indeed fill a hole in the market for small locos. So for the score, I'm going to give the Hornby Peckett a 10 out of 10. This has been Class 47 Peter reviewing Hornby's Peckett, and I'll see you again soon for the next review, when I will be reviewing Hornby's brand new B12, so that's something to look forward to. But until then, take care, and I hope you've enjoyed this video.